Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Tonight we begin on the disappearance of Maura Murray. Maura Murray is an American woman who disappeared on the evening of February 9th, 2004, after a car crash on Route 112 near Woodsville, New Hampshire, a village in the town of Haverhill. Her whereabouts remain unknown. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Alright, let's get into the video. Imagine this. You're a star athlete, an academic standout, and a West Point cadet. Your future is set. Then, one night you pack a bag, lie to your professors about a death in the family, and drive into the New Hampshire wilderness. Your car crashes, but when police arrive minutes later, you're gone. This is the story of Maura Murray. Her disappearance defies all logic. Was it a planned escape, a tragic accident, or something far darker? Maura Murray grew up the youngest of 5 in a modest home in Hanson, Massachusetts. The Murrays were a tight-knit family, working-class parents who instilled discipline and resilience. From an early age, Maura stood out not just for her striking dimples and bright smile, but for a quiet determination that would define her path. At Whitman-Hanson Regional High School, she became what every parent dreams of, a student who excelled equally in academics and athletics. Maura wasn't just on the honor roll. She was the kind of runner who pushed herself until her legs gave out. Her cross-country coach still remembers how she'd lap teammates during practice, her blonde ponytail bobbing as she left others in the dust. That relentless drive earned her a prestigious Boston Globe All-Scholastic honor, putting her among the state's elite high school athletes. What made her different wasn't just physical endurance, but how she balanced it with academic rigor. While most athletes struggled to maintain grades, Maura carried a 3.7 GPA, excelling in advanced science and math courses. Teachers noted her ability to focus, whether dissecting frogs in biology class or calculating trajectories in physics. This rare combination caught the eye of US Congressman Stephen Lynch, who offered something few students ever receive, a congressional nomination to West Point. The military academy seemed like the perfect fit. Her older sister Julie had already blazed that trail, graduating as an army nurse. Maura's discipline and athleticism appeared tailor-made for West Point's grueling cadet life. But beneath the surface of this all-American success story, cracks were forming. Her first semester at the academy revealed contradictions. She aced military strategy exams but chafed at the rigid structure. Her roommates recalled a young woman who meticulously ironed her uniform each morning, yet sometimes sat staring at the Hudson River for hours. That winter, rumors swirled about an alcohol-related incident, though records remained sealed. By spring, Maura made a surprising pivot. She left West Point to pursue nursing at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. This shift raises the first red flag in her story. Nursing programs rarely accept mid-year transfers, yet UMass made an exception. Her father later described it as a fresh start, but transfer paperwork shows an unsigned disciplinary form in her West Point file. Whatever happened during those months at the academy marked a turning point. Look at her trajectory, from small-town star to military cadet to nursing student. Each phase shows a young woman capable of reinventing herself, but capability doesn't explain why someone with so much promise would pack a car with textbooks and liquor on a February night, tell professors her grandmother died, a lie as the woman was alive, and drive toward mountains where she'd vanish without a trace. The excellence that defined Maura's early life only deepens the mystery. High achievers leave trails, resumes, graduate school applications, LinkedIn profiles. Maura left something else entirely. A single car with locked doors, an abandoned homework assignment on her desk, and a dispute about when taillights stopped glowing on Route 112. Imagine earning a spot at West Point, one of the most prestigious military academies in the country, only to walk away less than 2 years later. That's exactly what Maura Murray did. In 2002, she followed her older sister Julie's footsteps and enrolled at the United States Military Academy. The move made sense. Maura had already proven herself as a disciplined athlete and strong student, but something shifted during her time there. West Point is known for its grueling demands, physical training, academic rigor, and strict structure. Maura adapted well at first. She joined the track team and maintained solid grades. Yet beneath the surface, cracks began to form. By the summer of 2003, she'd made the decision to leave. The official reason cited was a desire to pursue nursing, a field she'd later study at UMass Amherst. But the abruptness of her departure raises questions. Why would someone with such promise abandon a path that seemed tailor-made for her? Some speculate the military environment clashed with Maura's independent streak. Others point to personal struggles, family tensions, relationship issues, or even unresolved stress. There's also the matter of an unresolved disciplinary incident involving credit card misuse, though details remain unclear. What we know is that by fall 2003, Maura was settling into a new life at UMass. Her transition to nursing school appeared smooth on paper. She worked part-time at a dorm security desk, kept up with coursework, and even reconnected with her love of running. But small, unexplained details stand out. In the months leading up to her disappearance, Maura's behavior grew increasingly erratic. She withdrew large sums of cash, researched rural areas in New Hampshire, and packed her car with travel supplies, all without telling friends or family. The shift from West Point cadet to UMass student wasn't just a change of schools. It marked a subtle but significant unraveling of the predictable trajectory she'd once been on. By February 2004, that trajectory would collapse entirely. The excellence that defined Maura's early life only deepens the mystery. High achievers leave trails, resumes, graduate school applications, LinkedIn profiles. Maura left something else entirely. A single car with locked doors, an abandoned homework assignment on her desk, and a dispute about when taillights stopped glowing on Route 112. The morning of February 9th, 2004 began like any other Monday for Maura Murray. She attended classes at UMass Amherst, submitting nursing coursework that showed no indication of what would come next. Around 1:30 p.m, she emailed professors claiming a death in the family required her sudden absence. One message read, "Hey, unfortunately there's been a death in my family and I have to go home for the week." The lie would become the first in a series of inexplicable decisions. By early afternoon, Maura had packed her black satin with clothes, textbooks and toiletries. At 3:40 p.m, she withdrew $280 from an ATM, nearly all her remaining funds. Security cameras captured her calm demeanor, showing no visible distress. Minutes later, she entered a nearby liquor store, purchasing a box of Francia wine, Bailey's Irish Cream, vodka and coffee Kahlua. The quantities suggested more than personal use. Here's the twist. During this time frame, Maura made a puzzling call. Using her cell phone, she contacted a condominium rental office in Bartlett, New Hampshire, a small town 30 miles east of where her car would later crash. The exact conversation remains unknown, but records confirm the call lasted just over 3 minutes. Why Bartlett? No friends or family recall her mentioning plans there. The timing suggests prior research, yet no reservation was ever found. Between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m, Maura's movements become harder to trace. Phone records show no further calls. Witnesses later reported seeing her car travelling north on Route 91 toward Vermont and New Hampshire. Around 7 p.m, a motorist noticed a vehicle matching her Saturn swerving near Woodsville, NH. Then, at 7:27 p.m, a local resident named Faith Westman dialed 911 after spotting Maura's car crashed into a snowbank on Route 112. Westman described seeing a lone woman standing near the trunk. A school bus driver named Butch Atwood also stopped, later telling police Maura refused his offer to call for help. She appeared shaken but uninjured, insisting she'd already contacted AAA. Another lie, as no such call was made. Atwood drove away assuming help would arrive. When police reached the scene at 7:46 p.m, 19 minutes after Westman's call, the Saturn was locked. Inside, officers found spilled wine staining the ceiling fabric and a rag stuffed into the tailpipe, a detail her father later claimed he'd suggested to prevent exhaust fumes during winter starts. Maura's belongings remained: textbooks, birth control pills, packed clothes. But Maura was gone. No footprints led away from the car. The surrounding woods were dense with snow, making rapid escape unlikely. Temperatures hovered near freezing. In the weeks prior, Maura had searched online for directions to Burlington, Vermont, and mapped the White Mountain region where Bennett's disappearance would occur. The digital breadcrumbs suggest planning, yet her final actions feel frantic. Pause and ask yourself, what would compel a nursing student to fabricate a family emergency, withdraw cash, buy alcohol and drive over 100 miles into rural New Hampshire? The calculated nature of some steps clashes with the apparent lack of preparation for the crash aftermath. She left her homework neatly stacked. She took no coat. She vanished within a 20-minute window where every second should have left traces. The hours before Route 112 present a paradox. A person methodically executing steps while simultaneously unravelling. The Bartlett condo call hints at an intended destination, but the crash site was 35 miles west. The rag in the tailpipe could be a red herring or a clue to mechanical trouble. Even the liquor purchase raises questions. Was it for a party that never happened? A coping mechanism, or something else entirely? Look closer at the timeline between the ATM and the crash. Roughly 4 hours unaccounted for. Did Maura meet someone along the way? Was she followed? The lack of gas station sightings suggests no stops, yet her car's tank was nearly empty upon discovery, indicative of long-distance driving without refueling. What we know is this: by the time police arrived, Maura had either fled on foot through sub-zero terrain, accepted a ride from a stranger, or encountered someone who ensured she wouldn't be seen again. Her cell phone never pinged after the crash. No bank activity occurred. Her scent disappeared just 100 yards from the road, according to search dogs. The fateful day's events form a mosaic where half the pieces are missing. Each action, the lies, the purchases, the drive, could point to an emotional breakdown, a planned disappearance, or something more sinister. But the why remains locked in that abandoned Saturn, its driver's seat empty, its windshield cracked from impact, its unanswered questions growing heavier with time. Now consider the crash site itself. Route 112 is a winding road with sparse homes and thick forests. If Maura ran, where could she have gone in 20 minutes without leaving tracks? If she accepted a ride, why choose that moment to trust a stranger? Every theory unravels under scrutiny, yet the absence of evidence isn't evidence itself. It's just silence. At 7:27 p.m. on February 9th, 2004, Faith Westman looked out her window on Route 112 and saw a car wedged in a snowbank. She called Haverhill Police to report a single car accident. The dispatcher noted the time, an entry that would later anchor the tightest missing persons timeline in recent memory. What happened next plays out like a magic trick. In the 19 minutes between Westman's call and police arrival, Maura Murray disappeared without leaving tracks in fresh snow. Butch Atwood, the school bus driver who lived nearby, was the last confirmed person to see Maura alive. He pulled over at approximately 7:32 p.m, offering to call police or let her wait in his home. Maura declined both options, stating she'd already called AAA, a claim disproven by phone records. Atwood later described her as shaken but alert, standing near her black Saturn's trunk. He drove away, believing help was imminent. This brief encounter raises persistent questions. Why refuse shelter on a 30-degree night? Why lie about contacting roadside assistance? Officers reached the crash site at 7:46 p.m. The Saturn's doors were locked. Inside, police found red stains later confirmed as spilled Francia wine soaking the ceiling fabric. More puzzling was a rag stuffed deep into the tailpipe, a detail Maura's father Fred claimed he'd suggested weeks earlier to prevent exhaust fumes during cold starts. Some investigators dismissed it as irrelevant, while others wondered if it indicated mechanical trouble that could explain the crash. The scene defied logic. No footprints led away from the car despite knee-deep snow. Search dogs tracking Maura's scent lost it near a bend in the road just 100 yards east of the crash, suggesting she entered a vehicle. Yet no witnesses reported seeing cars stop during the critical window. Temperatures hovered at 29 degrees Fahrenheit, conditions where hypothermia sets in quickly without proper clothing. Maura had left her jacket behind. Route 112 presents a geographical puzzle. The crash site sits between sharp turns locals call the bends, with limited visibility. To the east lay dense woods, west the wild Ammonoosuc River. A person trying to evade detection would struggle to navigate either terrain in darkness, especially without leaving tracks. The nearest homes were within shouting distance, yet no one reported hearing calls for help. Investigators grappled with the tailpipe rag's significance. Fred Murray maintained it was innocent advice, but mechanics debate whether the tactic could cause carbon monoxide buildup or engine failure. The Saturn showed front-end damage consistent with hitting a snowbank, not mechanical failure. Either the rag was a red herring, or it points to an unrelated problem that contributed to Maura's state of mind. The car's contents deepened the mystery. Alongside spilled alcohol, officers found Maura's packed nursing textbooks, birth control pills, empty liquor bottles, a handwritten note listing motels in Vermont. These items suggest preparation but conflict with her apparent panic after the crash. The lack of a cell phone charger hints she didn't plan an extended trip. Pause and ask yourself, if you just crashed your car at night in freezing weather, would you walk away from emergency responders? The window for disappearance was astonishingly narrow, roughly 7 minutes between Atwood leaving and police arriving. Someone would have noticed a wandering woman on the rural road. Search dogs traced 2 possible paths, one ending abruptly near the road, hinting at a vehicle pickup, another trailing toward nearby homes before vanishing. Neither yielded physical evidence. Initial searches within a 5-mile radius found no clothing, footprints or personal items. a near impossible outcome if Maura wandered aimlessly. Here's the twist. Atwood placed his 911 call at 7:42 p.m., 4 minutes before police arrived. This creates an 11-minute gap between Westman's initial call and his. Some investigators speculate Maura could have fled during this period, but the timeline remains too compressed for significant distance on foot. The rag's placement matters more than you might think. While Fred Murray's explanation is plausible, stuffing it requires lifting the tailpipe, normally too hot to touch immediately after driving. This suggests the rag was inserted earlier, possibly during Maura's final stop. If so, the car may have had pre-existing issues that contributed to the crash. Weather reports add another layer. Light snowfall began around 8 p.m. that night. Had Maura walked into the woods, fresh snow should have preserved prints for searchers the next morning. None were found. This leaves three possibilities. 1. She entered a vehicle voluntarily. 2. Someone forced her into a car. 3. She never left the immediate area. For 20 years, the crash scene has resisted explanation. Every theory, from abduction to intentional disappearance, collides with the physical constraints of those 19 minutes. The Saturn itself became a locked room mystery. No fingerprints besides Maura's, no signs of struggle, just a driver's seat abandoned so quickly the dome light was still on when police arrived. Now consider the immediate aftermath. While Haverhill officers processed the scene, a state trooper ran Maura's license and learned she had recent speeding tickets. This triggered standard DWI protocol, shifting early focus from search to potential intoxication. Crucial daylight hours were lost before organized ground searches began. The rag's inspection reveals another wrinkle. It showed no soot marks typical of exhaust blockage. This implies the Saturn wasn't running when inserted, contradicting Fred's cold weather advice. Either the rag was unrelated to car maintenance, or it was placed during an earlier stop when the engine was off. Forensic analysis of the wine stains confirmed they originated inside the car, not from broken bottles at impact. This suggests Maura had opened alcohol containers while driving, though no empty bottles were recovered from the immediate area. The spill pattern indicates sudden movement, perhaps braking before the crash, that caused liquid to splash upward. Digital records complicate rather than clarify. Maura's computer showed searches for Vermont accommodations and white mountain conditions, but no evidence she researched how to disappear. Her last cell ping was near Amherst hours before the crash, leaving no digital breadcrumbs for her final journey. The disappearance window's tightness strains probability. 19 minutes is barely enough time to change a tire, let alone vanish without witnesses on a road with intermittent traffic. Even if Maura feared DUI consequences, fleeing into unknown wilderness seems irrational compared to facing minor charges. This leaves us with irreducible questions. Why did a trained athlete with outdoor experience choose freezing woods over waiting for help? If she accepted a ride, why from a stranger when Atwood offered assistance? Every answer creates new contradictions, turning those 19 minutes into a black hole of uncertainty. The timeline of Maura Murray's disappearance hinges on 19 minutes. Faith Westman called 911 at 7:27 p.m. to report a crashed Saturn near her home. Police arrived at 7:46 p.m. In that window, a woman who'd drawn multiple witnesses' attention managed to leave no verifiable trace. Butch Atwood, the school bus driver who spoke to Maura, told investigators he called dispatch at 7:42 p.m. from his nearby home. Yet some analysts question this timestamp. His call log reportedly showed a 7:52 p.m. entry time. This 8-minute discrepancy matters when tracking someone's final movements. Search teams found no footprints leading into the snowy woods. Maura's cell pinged no towers after her last call hours earlier. Her bank cards never activated again. The Saturn held her phone, textbooks, and a spilled cranberry drink, but the driver's license she'd shown Atwood was missing. Two scenarios emerge from these cold facts. Either Maura fled the scene quickly and intentionally, using back roads or a prearranged ride, or someone intercepted her before officers arrived. The absence of disturbed snow initially favored the first theory, but cadaver dogs later hit on two roadside spots, clues modern DNA testing might revisit. Private investigators mapped possible escape routes leading to trails or neighboring towns, yet no verified sightings ever placed her beyond that curve on Route 112. The search radius expanded to waterways and abandoned buildings, turning up only false leads. Witness A's account adds another layer. This driver reported seeing a lone figure moving eastbound minutes after the crash, but weather and darkness obscured identifying details. If accurate, it suggests Maura covered nearly 2 miles undetected before police mobilized. Every possible action in those 19 minutes has been scrutinized. Could she have hidden in a passing car's trunk, walked to a predetermined meeting spot? The narrow window makes foul play equally plausible. Opportunistic predators have exploited similar rural crash sites. What's undeniable is how efficiently the landscape swallowed evidence. No struggle signs, no abandoned clothing, just a locked car with its dome light glowing in the gathering dark. Even if Maura intended to disappear, the logistical hurdles multiply under scrutiny. Few people vanish this thoroughly by accident or design. This evidentiary void spawned countless interpretations. Some argue the crash wasn't accidental but staged to misdirect searchers. Others note the rag in the tailpipe suggesting mechanical trouble that might have prompted desperation. But with each theory, the core problem remains. No one explains how she exited that roadside without leaving traces recoverable by thermal imaging, scent trails, or aerial searches. The investigation's next phase would chase shadows, alleged sightings, disputed forensics, and the frustrating cycle of hope, raised then dashed by cadaver dogs and buried fragments. But here, at the vanishing point, the case pivots from a missing person to a true enigma. For years, every potential clue in Maura Murray's case seemed to unravel upon closer inspection. In 2004, just months after her disappearance, search teams combed through Loon Mountain, where cadaver dogs had alerted investigators to possible human remains beneath a concrete slab. The discovery of bone fragments sent shockwaves through the case, until forensic testing confirmed they belonged to an animal. This pattern would repeat itself relentlessly. The challenges went beyond false biological evidence. Police reports obtained through FOIA requests revealed conflicts in witness statements, particularly around the critical timeline of those 19 missing minutes. Some accounts placed Butch Atwood's return to his home later than originally stated, while others suggested additional vehicles might have passed the crash site, unrecorded. The murkiness of these details allowed competing theories to flourish, each one creating more noise than clarity. One of the most persistent debates cantered on a weathered historical marker near the crash site. Online sleuths theorized Maura might have hidden something there, or even used it as a landmark if she'd planned to meet someone. But searches turned up nothing, just another dead end that somehow gained traction in forums and amateur investigations. The marker became a symbol of how easily conjecture could harden into false certainty when facts were scarce. Family-led efforts added fuel to the fire. Fred Murray's relentless push for transparency kept the case alive, but also led to friction with law enforcement. He accused authorities of mishandling evidence, from failing to secure the Saturn quickly enough to neglecting potential witnesses. His public pressure campaigns forced new searches, but they also created a feedback loop. Every lead that didn't pan out deepened frustration on all sides. Then came the psychic tips. Over the years, multiple psychics contacted investigators, each offering visions of where Maura's body might be hidden. None produced credible findings, yet their claims still diverted resources and attention. One tipster insisted she was buried near a water treatment plant, prompting a dig in 2005 that uncovered only old pipes. Another swore she'd been seen in Canada, leading to a flurry of speculation about intentional disappearance, until border records and witness interviews disproved it. Even digital speculation played a role. Web sleuths dissecting ATM footage claimed to spot suspicious figures in the background of Maura's last recorded withdrawal, suggesting she was being followed. But enhanced imaging revealed nothing conclusive. Similarly, discussions about a shadow on the road near the crash site fed into abduction theories, despite no concrete evidence of another vehicle stopping that night. The media amplified these false leads. National outlets picked up speculative stories, turning cadaver dog alerts into breaking news before analysis was complete. A 2010 news segment claimed a possible burial site had been identified near Route 112, only for forensic teams to determine the disturbed earth was from animal activity. These cycles of hope and disappointment wore on the family, making it harder to separate serious tips from baseless theories. One of the most damaging distractions arose from leaked investigative files. In 2009, a document surfaced online listing potential suspects, including locals with tenuous or no verifiable connections to Maura. Names circulated in online communities, leading to harassment of innocent people and muddying the waters for law enforcement. Meanwhile, phone tip lines flooded with calls from people claiming to have seen Maura everywhere, from truck stops to foreign countries, all without corroborating evidence. The case's biggest obstacle wasn't just the lack of answers, it was the sheer volume of misinformation. Even credible leads suffered from contamination. When search teams revisited the crash site in 2019, they found amateur investigators had left behind modern trash, complicating efforts to distinguish old evidence from recent interference. The most heartbreaking false hope came in 2017, when a backpack was discovered along the Connecticut River. Initial reports suggested it might contain Maura's belongings, but testing revealed no connection. A year later, another potential breakthrough, a piece of clothing found near a hiker's trail, also led nowhere. Each time, the Murray family endured a fresh wave of grief without resolution. Here's the twist. The very nature of the case invited speculation. The absence of a body, the bizarre circumstances of the crash, and the lack of digital breadcrumbs made Maura's Vanishing Act a blank canvas for theories. Was she a victim of foul play? Did she stage her own disappearance? The vacuum of certainty became an echo chamber, distorting even the most well-intentioned efforts. Legal battles further complicated matters. FOIA lawsuits unearthed troves. True crime stories often fade from public memory without resolution. Maura Murray's disappearance defies that pattern. Her case has persisted in the collective consciousness for 2 decades. The media ecosystem surrounding her story operates like a feedback loop, where each new podcast episode or documentary reignites speculation while preserving key details. The Maura Murray podcast exemplifies this phenomenon. Launched years after her disappearance, it became a hub for exclusive interviews and case updates. By granting access to law enforcement records and family insights, The series satisfied public hunger for primary sources. Yet even well-intentioned coverage walks a tightrope. Every factual revelation risks amplifying baseless theories or distorting timelines through repetition. Mainstream outlets amplified the mystery further. The Today Show segments framed it as a cultural touchstone, while social media communities dissected cadaver dog alerts and weather reports. Reddit threads spawned elaborate timelines, and YouTube creators mapped possible routes through the White Mountains. This digital archiving ensures no detail fades, but it also transforms raw data into competing narratives. For Maura's family, this attention cuts both ways. Public interest maintains pressure on investigators, yet relentless speculation forces them to relive trauma. Her sister Julie's interviews reveal the impossible balance. Gratitude for awareness mixed with exhaustion at fictionalized theories. When armchair detectives treat real grief as narrative fodder, the human cost surfaces. The case's endurance speaks to its layered puzzles. Media coverage preserves critical questions. Why did Maura drive north that night? Who borrowed the car before the crash? Each retelling introduces these unknowns to new audiences, ensuring fresh eyes scrutinize the evidence. But the same mechanisms that sustain awareness also crowd the record with noise. Unedited police tapes become conspiracy fuel, and anonymous forum posts gain undue weight. As documentaries compress timelines for narrative flow and podcasts spotlight dramatic theories, the core facts risk distortion. The paradox of Maura's media legacy is clear. Without public engagement, her case might have gone cold. Yet that same engagement often obscures more than it reveals. This tension sets the stage for evaluating the most persistent theories. When every scenario has been dissected online, how do we separate plausible explanations from persuasive fiction? The answer lies in tracing which ideas withstand scrutiny when the spotlight fades. The Bartlett condo complicates every theory. Why call a rental office 30 miles from the crash? Some speculate Maura planned to meet someone there, a theory bolstered by her internet search for Burlington, Vermont, just an hour west. Others argue it was a red herring, unrelated to her disappearance. The condo's proximity to the White Mountains also raises questions. Did she intend to hike? Hide? The call's timing, hours before the crash, suggests prior planning, but its purpose remains opaque. Paranormal explanations thrive where facts run thin. Online forums buzz about Route 112's reputation for strange occurrences. Lights in the woods, unexplained sounds. Some claim Maura fell victim to dimensional phenomena or government experiments. These stories surface in true crime podcasts, often blending local folklore with case details. While they lack evidentiary support, their persistence highlights how thoroughly the case resists conventional answers. Forensic analysis of Maura's computer revealed searches for pregnancy symptoms before her disappearance, a detail some link to her Massachusetts boyfriend's reported alibi gaps. Private investigators pursued this lead, but medical records showed no pregnancy confirmation. The same files contained searches for the Connecticut River Valley, fueling theories she intended to start anew along its isolated stretches. Yet her packed nursing books and unpaid tuition undercut this narrative. The most plausible explanations still rely on guesswork. A DUI theory proposes Maura feared another alcohol-related offense after her West Point struggles. This could explain fleeing the crash, but not the days of premeditation suggested by her withdrawals and packed car. A mental health crisis theory accounts for her erratic behavior, the lies, the sudden trip, but lacks clinical backing beyond family accounts of recent stress. Every lead dissolves under scrutiny. Even the cadaver dog alerts lack context. Their signals near water sources could indicate animal remains or residual scent from someone carrying Maura's belongings. FOIA released police files mention an early suspect who later proved uninvolved, showcasing how easily leads derail investigations. Here's the twist. The case's resistance to resolution sustains its mystery. Unlike other disappearances where evidence eventually surfaces, Maura's story offers no closure. Each theory, whether grounded in police files or internet speculation, hits the same wall. We're left with a young woman's last documented moments, a locked car, a spilled drink, and 19 unaccounted minutes on a cold road. Theories about Maura Murray's disappearance fall into three broad categories, each with its own compelling logic, gaps, and fervent believers. First, the intentional disappearance theory suggests Maura staged her own vanishing act. Supporters point to her cash withdrawal, packed belongings, and false story about a family death. The Bartlett, New Hampshire condo call fuels speculation she had an escape plan, possibly linked to Vermont searches found on her computer. Private investigators exploring this angle note she'd studied wilderness survival at West Point, potentially enabling her to live off-grid. But the counter-arguments are strong. Why leave behind nursing textbooks? Why no activity on her social security number? No verifiable sightings in 20 years make sustained concealment unlikely without help. Foul play theories center on opportunism or premeditation. Some focus on local predators. Registered sex offenders lived within a 15-mile radius of the crash. Others suggest a tandem driver or someone following Maura from Massachusetts. A private investigator's report highlighted an unnamed witness who claimed to see a red truck near the scene. This aligns with lingering questions about the rag in the Saturn's tailpipe. Could it have signaled mechanical trouble prompting a rendezvous? Without physical evidence or confessions, these scenarios remain circumstantial. Then there's the accident hypothesis, that Maura wandered into the woods disoriented and succumbed to hypothermia. Initial searches seem to rule this out due to the lack of footprints, but a 2022 study using LiDAR technology revealed previously unmapped sinkholes and ravines near Route 112. Cadaver dogs alerting near Bradley Hill Road in 2019 added credence to this possibility, though no remains were found. The challenge is reconciling this with witness accounts, placing a figure moving eastward after the crash. Maura Murray's case remains one of America's most haunting mysteries, a disappearance that defies logic even after 20 years. Every theory hits a wall, every lead fades into speculation, yet the questions linger, sharper with time. If you could revisit February 9th, 2004, what would you ask? The condominium call, the rag in the tailpipe, or the 19 minutes that swallowed a person whole? For more deep dives into unsolved cases, subscribe and stay curious. The answers, if they're out there, demand steady attention. Until then, mysteries like Maura's remind us how much we still don't know.